It was 4 a.m. The sky was clear and the stars, uninhibited by city lights, were bright and overwhelmingly numerous. I had just heaved two 60-pound suitcases down the staircase and into the stone portico. Our carry-ons waited beside them. All that remained before our departure was the quick jaunt up the steep hill, the climb over the stile, the wonderful cup of Kenyan chai that awaited us in the school's kitchen, and, of course, there was also that small matter of the arrival of our driver. As I stepped away from the suitcases to start walking toward the dining hall, I looked out the large rectangular hole in the wall that served as one of two windows in the spacious area. At just that moment, a star shot across the sky. I couldn't help but grin. No one could have scripted that any better. I left the portico and stepped out into the night air, with my teammate Laura and a young woman named Gladys following and chatting at a distance behind me. Again my eyes drifted heavenward, and again a star streaked across the glittering black expanse. Two! I had seen two shooting stars without even looking for them. Excitement swelled within me. It was as if God had sent one last parting blessing upon our trip. I continued walking up the hill, knowing this would be the last time I would make this climb for many months. Memories echoed with each footstep. The place where the path turned brought the memory of Laura's miserable meeting with an army of ants. A little further was the place where Rachel Sang had shown us the beans she had planted in her garden, and told of the thief who had stolen her phone and 2,000 shillings on her trip to Nairobi. A little further up the hill was the hole, the one in which I almost always stepped and nearly turned my ankle. Then came the stile, and the memories of trying to carry our supper from the kitchen to the house well after dark, with only the light of cell phones for our path. Just as I reached the kitchen, a third star made its trek across the sky. I didn't want to go inside by then. I didn't want to miss another star. But time was not on my side. I found Rachel busily pulling together a few items for a light breakfast. The others soon joined us. We had tea together, basking in the smoky warmth of the cooking fires, dreading the goodbyes that would come in just a few short hours, savoring the flavor of that warm liquid, and knowing we would not have it again together for so very long. We discussed our journey, and made frequent trips to the door to look up the long hill toward the road in search of the driver. Finally, he came. At Rachel's request, Gladys went to send him and his car to the house to fetch the suitcases, while Laura and I went to begin our wait at the road. The hill from the main road to the house is steep. There is no road per se, but more of a footpath that meanders through the long grass, which is mown only by the occasional munching of the two milk cows. It had not rained the day before, so, in theory, there was little mud to contend with, but the grass was damp with a heavy dew that even made walking a bit precarious in places. Laura and I waited with Gladys at the road. We could hear the voices of the Sangs, our driver Walter, and others as they loaded the bags into the trunk. The car doors slammed. The headlights turned toward us, and then it happened. The engine revved. The tires spun, and the car went nowhere. Walter tried again, this time making it halfway to the kitchen before having to roll back down toward the house. Again, the high-pitched whine of engine and tires reverberated off the walls of the valley. The lights came closer, 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 then sank back down the hill. By now we could tell the others were trying to assist. They tried the climb a fourth time, but still with no success. Over and over they tried, but they just couldn't get beyond the point where the path passed the stile. Gladys giggled beside me. "Everyone in the village will know what time you left for Nairobi." It was true. That hideous mocking sound of the wet grass tormenting the engine and tires carried through the dark and hit a dozen or more homes. I looked at Laura, and she back at me. We had waited long enough. It was time to see if we could help. We hurried back down the path that led to the kitchen, not really able to see a thing. hoping not to step in a hole. Just as we reached the long iron sheet building and turned down the skinny path that led to the stile, I could see the car approaching. Instinctively, I quickened my pace, nearly running down the path. As I reached the top step in the fence, I could make out the shapes of 3 men at the back of the car, silhouetted in the red glow of the tail lights. Rachel Sang was behind the wheel. Someone else was coming up the path behind them. I quickly stepped down from the stile and hopped in line beside Walter, positioning myself just behind the right rear tire. It occurred to me that I was not likely to be much help, that the car was likely to slide backwards and roll over top of me, and, as a sizable chunk of mud hit me in the face, that I was about to get absolutely filthy. But it had to be done. Then, suddenly, to my great surprise, I realized that as small as it might be, I was making a difference. We were moving. We were really moving. We passed the stile. We passed the hut on the right. We passed through the cow gate. Then I realized that we were passing the spot where the second-grade classroom used to stand, and I saw the ground drop away. In that instant, I knew I was going to fall. There was nothing I could do about it. We had too much momentum for anything else to happen. In that brief moment, I also realized that, thanks to the red glow surrounding us, I could choose how I would land. The car lurched away from me. With nothing to push against, all the force that had been put into pushing the Toyota up the hill was transferred into a headlong dive toward the long wet grass along the path. I could hear Walter beside me, in true Kenyan form, saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry," and I in return called, "I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay." Then it was done. We were at the top. I had barely gone to my knees and was quickly back on my feet, panting, sweating, muddy, and amazed at what had just happened. We looked at one another, making sure everyone was safe. I realized for the first time that beside Walter had been Eric, and beyond him Richard, the night watchman. We all sighed. Then the grinning began, the thanking one another, the praising the Lord, the laughs of relief and disbelief. We had made it. That dark Kenyan morning, I learned an important lesson. I learned the value of just one more person. A couple of years earlier, God had reminded me very poignantly that tires spin when we put more power behind the wheels than the tires and surface can handle. But that morning, I learned that sometimes tires spin because we need just one more person pushing. Forbid Them Not is a small ministry, just one staff member. If it wasn't for those who have stepped in alongside and helped with the pushing, we would never make it up the hill. There would be no Green Bean Project, no sewing classes or vacation Bible schools in Kenya, no local ministry to fatherless kids and single moms, no orphan rescue or sponsorships, no material development and training. There would be nothing. So today I want to thank you. I want to thank each of you who have stepped in line and helped with the pushing. Thank you for being willing to give of your time and your energies. Thank you for being willing to pray and to give. And thank you for being willing to step behind the tire and get dirty, to step into the fray, to sacrifice in order to make a difference in the lives of these children. Together with God's help, we'll make it, because with Him, all things are possible. Thank you for being relevant.